Really been inspiring to just see people really starting to understand what's going on. When this started in about January, I first heard about it, called the first meeting, and nobody really knew what was going on. And so then we went to Paley Defense Fund. Polikapu was the first place I went because when we did this before 20 years ago, they led the fight, and I didn't know who to go to. And so he helped us get started, and then Puna Pono got formed in March, and since then we've seen what's gone on. So we really have come a long ways, and we have a long ways to go. We still have a lot of things to go. Obviously, we're up against you know, a huge project here. You've probably read the paper last week Sunday where they talked about all the different properties that are being leased in Opihikau and in Four Corners and Pohoiki. So there's about, we hear there's about 20 companies. We don't really know. A lot of that is proprietary information, so they don't talk about it. Like even Avalor, when we found out, I went to a meeting with Avalor for the Opihikau property, and it's a 500-acre property up in Opihikau that they're trying to lease. But at the meeting, Dean Sadamoto, I think is the project manager, he said that they actually are leasing other properties, and when we asked him where, he wouldn't tell us where. And so we know there's a lot of other companies too that are leasing a lot of the large lots. You know, I don't know if it's all of the large lots, but a lot of the large lots are being leased, and part of that is because there's a huge amount of money coming out of the federal government through the Department of Energy for green projects, and geothermal is seen as a green project. So there's all this money available for these companies, and we're going to be paying, taxpayers are paying a lot of these costs for this exploration. So it's kind of a pay to play. They don't have a lot to lose. They have a lot of political support, so that's what we're up against. What we've been able to do is, I don't think they were expecting Puna, and so what we've been able to do in the face of that, but this whole thing is about to change now. We've had a really wonderful special county council that has gone to bat for us like I have never seen before. And that now the election's changing. We have new county council members that we're going to have to educate again. And the legislature is getting ready to start. So we're going to be having to move to the state level because the root of the problem actually goes to Act 55, which is the Public Land Development Corporation, and Act 97, which repealed the subzones and took the county permitting process away from the county. So basically the permits for these new projects will be coming out of the state. So we have to move now to the state, and also we're looking at litigation and different things when those issues come up. So I just wanted to kind of get you guys up to speed on that. We're going to be picking up our outreach. We're trying to build alliances with other different groups. So if you guys, anybody's connected with the different groups on the different islands, on all these different islands, these are home rule issues, and a lot of the different islands have their own issues with the Public Land Development Corporation or Big Wind or whatever it is. All these kind of developments where they're coming into communities and they're not allowing the communities to participate in the development is happening all over. So we're trying to build alliances so we can have a stronger voice and build a political base, a voting bloc, and because that's really what we're going to have to do besides the litigation. So we're working on that. Anybody wants to help with that? We also, we're doing these house studies. We're working on getting a house study. They're putting up roadblocks. They're trying to stop it. And it's really amazing that, they want to insist there's no health impacts from geothermal, but they won't just help us do the house study. Now, instead, we asked for $200,000 to do a house study. Instead, they hired Peter Adler, who was the mediator back and created this whole problem back 20 years ago, to do a study of the study. and they gave him $50,000 to do this. So we have, I'm going to be on that panel, and I want to introduce you to some of the members of Puna Pono. There's Suzanne Wakeland over here. She's a PhD in physics, and then we've got Tom Travis. Where you at? Tom Travis in the back. Tom is a nuclear submarine commander, and he's a nuclear engineer. Not what you'd expect in Puna. And then we have Paul Kuykendall right there, and Paul is a computer software specialist. Was working for a big software company. Barb Cuttins, right back in the back. She's an event coordinator from New Zealand. And we've got, I can never pronounce her name. I'm going to call her Kat. We have Kat. Where are you at? There's Katrina. I'm sorry. I always do that. And Gary. Carrie, I'm sorry. Carrie Marks. Please take a bow. Occupy Hawaii. And Carrie has been amazing. She has videotaped every meeting for months and months and gets them up on YouTube. She has a YouTube channel at Occupy Hawaii. So if you want to review any of the meetings, and she goes to the mayor's energy meetings, she goes to all these obscure meetings where they're trying to do these things that nobody knows about, and she videos them, makes them really nervous. And so we have a record of all that stuff. And Laura Travis, we have Laura Travis.
Where?
I don't see it. Oh, in the back right there. Thank you, Laura. And Diane Thomas and Jean Thomas down here. And when we first got started, we did the PowerPoint with the Pele Defense Fund. Diane Thomas did the PowerPoint. It was a really amazing job, and it really started the whole ball rolling. That PowerPoint was great. And Jeff Last. Jeff Last has got the boards in the back, and he's our education specialist. And he's been with us since way back in the original Big Island Rainforest Network. Big Island Rainforest Action Network. He's going to have a market. He's setting up a booth at the Makuga Market to do this information every Sunday. We're going to be looking for people to help with that, and we have some other things we need help with. We also have a health survey form. I started talking about that earlier. If anybody has health issues that they want to get in front of the Adler, please fill out one of the health forms back there, and all in the back corner back here. And also, we're looking for grant writers. We want to do this. We're looking to fund our health study ourselves, so we don't have to have our hand out and go jump through all these hoops at the county that they're putting us through. If anybody has experience writing grants, we have places to go for the money. We just want to do it right when we go the first time. So please let us know if you have experience with that. We're also going to do events. We have this Saturday, I think it's December 1st, we're going to be at Uncle Robert's Market. We'll have, and we're going to have a booth there. And I know Harry Kim will be speaking there also, and a lot of good people will be down there. And then December 20th, we're going to be at the Hawaiian Sanctuary. We're going to announce the music. I think we're going to have some really good music, but we haven't got it lined up yet. So anybody that can help with that kind of stuff, events, please also sign up. If you've signed up to help us before, and it hasn't gone anywhere, please don't give up. Come back, sign up again. We really do, in the back corner, have sign-up sheets, and we could use some help. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get to the speakers now. First, we got Polikapu Dedman from the Pele Defense Fund. And like I said, he led the fight before all the litigation. all the Rainforest Action Network from San Francisco all came through Polytop. All I can do is give you more or less our native perspective on this whole thing. Geothermal and how it all started. Really started from up at Volcano where Puna started. That's where it was being proposed. With Campbell Estate, right next to National Park. Of course, you had the community association there against it. So there's a contested case going on. But it was missing the native component, the whole thing. It was science against science. So we got involved on the native side, looking at what impacts that desecrating religion would do on a race of people. We tried to get that as something we thought was legitimate, and it still is. But history has it where we've all become Christians, and a lot of us are still hanging on to traditions. So that was our argument and our point of view. So while we were in the court case, in a contested case that we got involved with, the very beginning of geothermal, going to the permitting stage, Tutupele erupted. She blew up Pool right in the middle of their plans. So they had to regroup themselves, and then they went for a land swap. So they went down to Wild Carrier Puna, which was Campbell land, and they swapped it with the public, so it becomes our land. And they became doing geothermal development on it. We were losing all our rights to these lands, our gathering rights. All the people lived around Wild Carrier, which starts from Volcano all the way to Kalapana, all the subdivisions bordering Wild Carrier. So everybody was using the forest, and a lot of it were traditional practice in hunting and gathering of medicines. And a lot of people from the areas were doing that all their life. And then you see of the migration and the new people coming into Hawaii and being born here, 2, 3 generations have adopted a lot of the customs and practices. So the gathering in the forest started to become something that everybody wanted to do, and everybody was doing it and practicing. So it wasn't just a Hawaiian argument. It's going to be a benefit for everybody. All the times we have issues that we go and fight for, access to this and access to that, when we win, it's a benefit. There's no sign they go up and say Hawaiian only. Everybody gets to enjoy what we have to fight for. But we have to raise those issues. The government's not looking out for us. As you can see, if you're paying attention to Hawaii and its history, it's not about government looking out for the interests of Hawaiians. As you can see, as I said, though, so religion became real important. Well, a spiritual understanding of how we live on the islands and our connection to what we look at religion or our spiritual beliefs to nature. I think all religions started with a nature foundation. I don't know how they all got lost and went their own ways, but we're still trying to keep those traditions. And in Hawaii, I didn't have to make up Pele, it was there. It was traditional, it was dances, it was art, it was song, it was something real to a race of people. So I just stood up as Pele Defense Fund to stop and say that I had a right, as a bee and a bug does, when you do impact studies on things, that I had a right with my religion that geothermal was a psychological, really bad effect on how you alter theologies and beliefs and how desecrating is that and how you can just do it. Well, like I said, in Hawaii, we don't have too many traditional practices. And all our spiritual places or heiaus that are well known are owned by the national parks or the state. I think we're the only race in the United States where we don't own our church. It's owned by some government agency or some private hotel. And as a vet, I thought I fought for the freedom of that. I thought I fought for my right to believe the way I did. And I'm not talking about Hawaiians who are assimilated in the Western world and are not brought up with traditions and customs. And they seem to be using them more. And they themselves use themselves more to speak up
against their own kind. And you know that already. And that's the sad part about, instead of we yield to one another with respect in front of all these people, no, we ridicule. We get ridiculed by the one who don't believe anymore. Not by saying, I didn't practice, I wasn't brought up with it, so I respect it. The boss will be standing against the wall and let the Hawaiian desecrate the other Hawaiian. That's been going on for a long time. I just want you people to know that there are Hawaiians out there in this world, on these islands, that still believe in their traditions and will stand up for them. We all assimilate. And I think the track record speaks for itself about what really is Christianity to nature beliefs. And it really doesn't fit here. It was all about nature. I think if we wanted that understanding of Christianity, it would have been done before you got here. Yeah? I think we understood it enough that we were part of what was here, and we still want to be part of what was here. There is no extra Hawaii and no extra Hawaiians. We're in. If we're going to pass through this lifetime, if we're not going to defend and protect who we are, at least show some moral integrity about it. It's shame on us. I'm just saying that there's some of us that still are hanging on and believe it, and you have to know that. You cannot go around in Hawaii thinking that we all gave it up. You'll see the ones that have done that, but we all did it. Right? And I really appreciate working with all the people in this whole struggle against geothermal, saying that it's not a Hawaiian's problem. I didn't create an energy problem. But they'll go ahead and desecrate and do something that I think is sacrilegious because of some energy problem. I mean, we were nature believers, from the mountain to the top to the ocean. We had ecosystems at each level that were part of our traditions and practices. We're losing all of that. You know, there isn't much. The hardest thing for an Hawaiian today to be is one. You gotta understand that. We cannot really be ourselves in our own environment. And I don't know where else I'm supposed to go to be a Hawaiian and act like one, when the ones that live here don't even do it anymore. It's really important to keep the focus, and it's important that you know that some of us are still keeping the focus. And it's just, there's no Hawaiian word for art. So we just have to do and be what we are, and there's no extra ones. So I'm proud of who I am. I'll defend my integrity and my moral integrity when something goes against my beliefs and traditions. I think if the next generation don't see us standing up for these principles and morals, and the people around don't see us do it, then nobody will care. And government, to me, are very more responsible. They got an obligation to do the fair thing. It's, you know, we just filed a lawsuit for the hunting against the Illinois. They're fencing off land and poisoning with rodent poison and killing all the pigs between fences. Things that I grew up to live with and eat. State lands. Now, 3 million acres is now fenced off for science. It's for science. Let's protect a bug, let's protect a bee, let's protect a flower. Well, fence around those things, man. Not 12,000 acres and then kill all the pigs in between them, man. Our future, our subsistence, our way of life. I mean, and they use my tax money to fight me back. You know, I mean, where is that? Where is government's responsibility? How is they, and how are they doing it? I'm just saying, and have an opportunity to tell you, and I'll tell you as long as I live on this island, about how we believe and what geothermal is. It's a bad thing for us as a Hawaiian. It's a bad thing as a Hawaiian who breathes air, drink clean water. As a Hawaiian doing other things, it's bad. Just like everybody else. So you gotta know that you're not by yourselves in your little spiritual world. You gotta know that. I mean, there's Hawaiians that believe that too. And stand firm for it. think you'll find better luck in Hawaii hanging on to those understandings of where you at and how much respect you gotta have for it. It'll pay you back, and I think that's the only way we have to look at things. So I know we're a minority, but we're still trying to keep the window open for maybe future children or generations to have an advantage. I don't want to shut the doors on everything because we're not there. If the bird's not in the tree, that don't mean you get to cut it down. It may come back next week. But it's all the idea about nobody's there now, so let's just take it. And no opportunity for tomorrow. We don't live on a continent, we live on an island. And it comes full circle real quick on islands. And it's connected, Mauka. So every time you destroy an ecosystem at a certain level, you screw up the whole system. And we got to pay attention to that, because they can't speak for themselves. It's up to us. And we got to speak for everybody. I mean, the fish, the birds, we got to think for them. We destroy them, and it's part of who I am. Everything in Hawaii has a native name to it. A Hawaiian put a name on it. He's not recognized though, because when you see all about Hawaii, birds, flowers, but there's no people picking, eating, living. You don't see those things. You just see a bird or a flower. And you can see it at National Park, and you can see it at Nature Conservatives meetings, and you can see it in certain documentations, but they'll never have native people actually involved in it. And I don't know why. We're very much part of this environment. We came with it. And we've got to go with it too, the same way that we feel we should live it. So I just want you folks to know I really appreciate organizing in your communities. You guys have to stay firm, stay strong. You love this place, then love it the way you love things. I don't think geothermal should be dumped in nobody's backyard and sacrilegious to native people's beliefs. So, hey, learn how to turn off the lights, unplug the things you don't need. But you got to love Hawaii like we do. Just want you to know that. If you don't see the Hawaiians out there loving it, I'm telling you we do. Aloha.
Thank you, Paulie. I want to say, when nobody was there for us in the beginning, Paulie Koppel was the first one that stood up and helped us, and we would have never did it without him. So we got a few new politicians in the House, a few old politicians. We got Harry Kim, we got Dominic Yagong, we got Russell Ruderman, our new state senator, and we've got Gregory Iligan, a new representative for District 4. Russell flew in from Honolulu, and he was in Honolulu. I asked him to please come, and he flew in, and he's going to be an ally for us up at the state level. So I asked him to come up here and just tell you something. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Well, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. It's even more of a pleasure to see so many people here being involved. And when Bob was describing all the people involved in Puna Pono and all the talent and brains and creativity there, I was very, very impressed. And I have to say, when they think about where they might want to do any geothermal again, Puna's the wrong place for a lot of reasons, but one is they're going to have a heck of a fight if they try to do it there. But you guys are very, very organized and educated and creative and energetic, too. And along the way, I want to say, I've known a lot of these folks for a long time, and a lot of folks have been involved in this issue for a long time. But I'm so impressed but the work that Papa Chichi has done lately in pulling so much of this together. And so I just started my new job. I moved into our head office at the state capitol just in the last couple of weeks. And it's, I think what happens there is a much more slow, gradual process than I wish it was. But I will be trying to push in the right direction. And I'll be working with Bob and all you folks if there is any geothermal-related legislation that's possible. But I do know that there's some things that's touch on the subject, including solar power and PLDC issues. And I do want to say that it seems to me that the PLDC is probably going to get repealed, and I think that's probably going to be one of the first things that happens there. At least the discussion over it. And, it's moving day by day, but it's just amazing. And there's been so much energy behind that. So anyway, I don't want to take up too much time. I know you guys got a lot of wonderful speakers tonight. Thank you so much, Bob, for giving me mahalo.
Thank you, Russell. Original member of the Big Island Rainforest Action Network. I also want to thank Steve Hirakami. I get a brain freeze and I forget Steve, and I've done it before. I really apologize for providing the system, the sound system, and providing a meeting place and being part of this and helping organize the meetings. He's been a huge part, and I know he's really busy running the Haas School also, and Steve really gives a lot of time to Puna Pono also, so thank you, Steve. We got Dominic Ugong next, and you all know who he is. Dominic has been our biggest champion at the County Council.
Council-elect Iligan, Senator-elect Ruderman, Mayor Harry Kim, and the rest of you wonderful Puna people, aloha! It is so nice to be here. Thank you so much, Bob, for inviting me. He's been such a wonderful partner, and I've learned so much from Bob and many of the people in this organization. I appreciate it. Those of you folks probably know by now that December 3rd is going to be my last day at the Hawaii County Council. Actually, folks, I've been on the County Council for 12 years, and I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you and mahalo for giving me the opportunity to work with so many wonderful people, not only throughout the island, but here in Puna. You folks have been absolutely wonderful in terms of participating in the government process and raising the education of this island in regards to issues that are important. Whether it was the building code, who was at these meetings? Puna was there. Whether we're talking about sustainable living, who was there? The people from Puna. When we talked about the relocation fund and buying monitors for the residential geothermal, when we talked about the health studies, when we talked about the emergency evacuation route, who was there at the county council? The people of Puna. And I just want to tell you folks, it has been an absolute pleasure working with many of you, but more importantly, it's been an absolute pleasure being part of a movement and a direction that poses to make our community better. So do me a favor, give yourself a great big round of applause, Puna. You folks have been wonderful. Thank you. I was asked by Bob to talk about Bill 292. And that's basically the bill that was passed by the Hawaii County Council. And basically, Bill 292 is the restriction on geothermal exploratory drilling, where they would be restricted to drill from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning.
No, restricted to drill the other way.
Yeah, restricted, they would not be able to drill during that time, from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I've had a long day today, folks. This is my third meeting today. But at any rate, And so what happened was we passed the bill. Well, I want to make everyone understand that the bill basically wasn't directed specifically to PGV. It was directed to any geothermal drilling anywhere on the island. That if you are to drill within a 1 mile radius of any residential area, you must abide by this county code. So it's not just for PGV, but for everybody that may or may not, but may do a geothermal drilling on this particular island. Now, Bill 292 basically went to 3 readings. It passed at the committee level, and it passed at 2 full council meetings. We also had the opportunity to come out here to Puna, where we had a public hearing right here at the community center. And what happened was the bill passed. It went to the whole process, and it passed by a 5-2 margin at the county council. Now, the people that voted against the bill was Councilmember Jay Yoshimoto and Councilmember Fresh Nishi. And 2 people that did not vote on the matter, Mr. Ikeda was not in the room at the time that we took the vote, and Mr. Blas, at that time, he had a family, and his brother passed away in the mainland, so he was in the mainland when we took the vote, so he wasn't there taking the vote. But I do want to share that morning of the vote, his wife did come to the county council to talk to me, although I wasn't there in the morning, but relayed this to my executive assistant, and number 1, to tell me that, to relate to me why he wasn't at the meeting, because he had to deal with the passing of his brother in the mainland. But the second thing was to let me know that it was his intentions to vote for Bill 292. So just want to let you folks know. Now, the reason why Bob asked me to come forward and talk about the bill is to talk about the process. It has passed the county council. However, there's been some discussion on the general public that the mayor may veto the bill. Okay, as you know, the mayor did veto Bill 256. Remember that. He also vetoed Bill 257, which was emergency. Having the civil defense director be mandated to conduct an evacuation plan for the people of Puna for the plant here in Puna. And of course, Bill 256 had to do with making sure that the funds were dedicated towards relocation and dedicated towards public safety, buying monitors, funding the health study and so forth. Well, that was vetoed as well, both of those bills. So now, let's move forward to Bill 279. So I want to let everyone know that I have gotten 0 indication of whether or not the mayor intends to veto the bill. But the question that was asked to me is, okay, if he does veto, please come to Puna and let people know what the process will be from there. So that's why I'm here. Now, if the mayor decides to veto the bill, he actually has until December 5th to do so. December 5th is will be the last day that he can inform the county council that he is going to veto Bill 297. Now, once he does that, he would send a letter to the council chairperson, and by that time, I'll be out of office, and there'll be a new council in. So Jay Yoshimoto will be receiving that letter. So once they receive that, according to our county charter, the county council has 5 days, up to 30, where they can take some kind of action. So basically, we have the council, once they receive it, if they receive it on December 5th, would have 30 days to take some type of action to either override the mayor's veto or to sustain the mayor's veto. Now, what would happen? Yeah, and you would need 6 votes to do that. Now, the voting on the override, if it does come to pass, will be done by the new council, not this council that's in place right now. So it'll be the new members of the council that will be dealing with this issue. Now, here's the thing. This is the process. What would happen is if he does veto on December 5th, a council member of the new county council would have to write a communication to the chairman, or the chairman could do it himself, to say that they want to reconsider Bill 292. And if a council member does that, what will happen is a mayor veto message will then go on the council agenda. And at that point in time, the new council will take a vote on whether or not they want to reconsider Bill 292 and put it back live on the council floor for a vote. If a council member doesn't write to the chairman, or if the chairman does not put it on the agenda and no action is taken, in 30 days the bill is dead. So what that means is unless the council takes action, then basically the veto is going to be sustained. Now, if a council member does write in and say we want to reconsider Bill 292, it'll go on the agenda, most likely the December 19th agenda, because if it doesn't go on the December 19th agenda, the next meeting is in January 9th. So that means it'll be past the 30 days. So it has to go on the December 19th agenda, which means someone has to write that letter to the chairman to do so. Now, if someone does write that letter to the chairman, requesting that item gets onto the agenda and asks that it be put on December 18th agenda, what will happen is at that meeting, December 19th, at that meeting, the council will first take a reconsideration vote. If they vote, and you need 5 votes to do a reconsideration. If there is no 5 votes are not there, what will happen is the mayor veto stands. Okay? So you need at least 5 votes to reconsider and put it back onto the council floor. If you have the 5 votes or more, which I hope that you do, what will happen then is the council will now take a revote on Bill 292. They will then discuss that in open session to give their reasons as to whether they support the mayor vetoing the bill or whether they do not support the mayor vetoing the bill, and they will take a vote. At that point, when the vote is taken, you will need 6 votes, not 5, but 6 votes to override the mayor's veto. So basically, I would just suggest to all of you that, and if you do believe that this ordinance that was passed, to make sure that the people living within the vicinity of the geothermal should not be subjected to 24-hour drilling. And the reason this whole thing came about was because the people of Puna came to me and said, Dominic, this is not Pono. And what we did was we amended Chapter 44, which is a section that deals with the general welfare of the people of the county of Hawaii. And we don't believe, certainly I don't believe, that subjecting kids that need to go to school or subjecting adults that need to work the next day, having to wake up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because of the noise that's generated from 24-hour drilling. If you're going to drill, and I know there's a lot of people here who probably prefer that there'll be no drilling period, but if you're going to drill, it should be done so at a time that is reasonable. And that's why when I say that this bill is not targeted just for PGV, but everywhere else, if geothermal is going to come in, and I don't know that it will, but if it does in other places of the island, what that tells you, you don't do what you did in Puna. You don't put a geothermal plant next to a residential area and cause any problems. So that's why this bill is important, because what happens is this: if for whatever reason there is geothermal moving forward, say in Hualalai in West Hawaii, they'd be very smart not to build anywhere close to any residential area, because you don't want to relive some of the problems that has taken place out here in Puna. So it's a very important bill. It's an extremely important bill, and it's important that the council members, the new council members, understand that you as a public, you as a community, deserve to have this discussed in open session. Certainly, I hope that is what's going to take place in this particular process. And at that point in time, obviously, you folks have been great, wonderful in coming forward with communications to the council members, expressing your support for the bill. That's going to continue to be important. And people that are there actually, testifying, that's extremely important. But watch for the December 5th vote date. Now, the mayor could surprise many people and cite it. I don't know. I hope he does. I hope he does, and we should encourage him to do that, by the way. But if he does not, I think the issue is it's a great issue, I think, for the entire island, because for the most part, a lot of the issues have been focused right here in Puna. But when you hear the talk about geothermal being done in other districts, the other councilors had better be aware that they could be knocking in your community soon. And it's important that the representative, really look out for the best interests of the people, because quite frankly, if we don't do it by law, if we don't do it by ordinance, the council members are the only people that can do that. If they don't protect you, who will? So we need to educate the new council that comes in of how important this is. And that's on Bill 292. I'm going to save discussion for Bill 150, for Act 155 for my good friend Harry Kim. I know he's going to come and speak about that. But I do just want to say real briefly, folks, something that I advocate everywhere I go, whether I'm in Hamakua, Kohala, West Hawaii, whether I'm in Ocean View or Ka'u or here in Puna. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very important that we understand the concept. A lot of probably Pablo talked about, and Bob, we understand the concept of home rule. We understand, we need to make sure that we understand and that we educate our lawmakers, make them understand how important home rule is to us and what home rule means. As we, as residents of the people of the county of Hawaii, we live here. This is where we raise our family. This is where we hope for a prosperous economy. This is where we work and play with our community. This is where we're going to one day lay to rest. And this is our island. And it's very important, like this PLDC, I'm very proud to say, it was this council, that was the very first council that said we need to abolish PLDC. And we passed legislation, thanks to Brenda Farrell in West Hawaii. We were the first county to do it, and Hawaii County followed, and Maui County followed. We just need to get Oahu to follow as well. But the whole idea, the whole concept is home rule. It's important that we have a say in what our community looks like, what our island will look like, not only today, not only 5 years from now, but 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. It's our responsibility, folks. And the way to do it is to make sure that we not only expect, but we demand that we be part of the decision-making process when it comes to our community, and that's what I want. With that said, I want to once again, I don't know, they're going to be, I think, question and answers at the end, but I'll stick around. But I just wanted to say to all of you, thank you, mahalo everybody, puna imua.
So what that means is when this comes up for Bill 292, we're going to need to write and call Jay Yoshimoto, Gregory Iligan, Zendo Kern, Brenda Ford, Margaret Willie, Karen Eoff, and the other council members, and ask them to write that letter. And so that's up to us. That's what, this is, how are we going to do this? What can you do? That's what you can do. And that's what we have to do. And when they put it back before the council, we have to show up. And we have to show up like we've never showed up before. If we can show up with 400 people, they're going to have a hard time ignoring us. And if they do, it's going to be noticed that they're not doing what the people want. So please pay attention. We'll let you know when that happens. And we'll give you the addresses. If you're not on the email list, please sign up and get on the email list. Back at the back door back there, we have a sign up. Please get on our mailing list, and then we'll let you know when all that stuff goes on. So next we have Harry Kim. Harry Kim. Long-time civil defense mayor. I want to really thank Harry for taking the time to come out here and talk to us again.
I'm not much of a rah-rah speaker, so I hate to follow Dominic. But that's okay.
Love you, Harry.
Love you too, my man. That word, truthfully, I told my family and close friends, but I'm an Asian, obviously, and we don't use that word too often. Even towards our kids, which is not, right. But in the last, I think, 5, 6 months, 3, 4 more to the point, I've heard that words used on me more than I did in my entire lifetimes of politics. When I go home and I tell my wife, I don't know what I've done to deserve, this kind of affection of people, but I thank you for that. So we had a great campaign, and I want to acknowledge, our signs. We're on a very kind of skimpy budget because I'm cheap. But one person made so many signs for me, and believe it or not, she even waved twice a week for Hilo, Puna, and so many things, to help me get elected. And the funniest part about it is she didn't even vote for me because she's Canadian. I want you to acknowledge my aloha and thanks to Jen Anderson. The guy used to perk me up all the time with his phone calls. Jim, when I think he's here. Jim, when you here? I'm not here. But in regards to this issue, I'm going to deviate a little bit. I know what Mr. Yvonne said is very important, and Bob, in regards to the issue. I tried to tell Bob this for several months now. My issue is a little different. The issue is not geothermal. Geothermal was the issue that brought forth in regards to why I ran and why I made certain things public. I don't want to bore you, but I want to read to you this homemade brochure. Everything that you see in regards to in print or radio station, because I was a one-man type operation, I wrote myself, and therefore everything I wrote, I truly believe in. I take time to really choose my words carefully, because it is very important that I choose words that really express what I feel. I won't bore you with this whole thing. The question was, why are you running, Harry? Because people always asking me why I was running. And if I may read just a part of it. However, as time went on, some home rule issues became more the focus and concerns of many. An issue was the status of the community development plan program and the lack of support felt by especially those who contributed so much of their time on this issue. Other home rule issues are raised by Act 55, established by the Public Land Development Corporation. Act 97 eliminated Geothermal Resource Permit Authority of the Hawaii County Planning Commission, eliminated geothermal subzones, and makes geothermal activity permissible in any land use category. An attempt by the county and state officials to exempt geothermal exploratory drilling from any EA or EIS requirements. It is emphasized that I do support geothermal, but must be done to ensure the protection of people and the environment. It became very clear that the issues were not just how geothermal or other projects were developed, but more importantly, the taking away of people's opportunity for input, the role of the local county government, and the determination of the kinds of developments that affected their lifestyle and their home. These issues are at the very heart of what I believe to be the role and relationship of the people and their government, and that is why I ran. The sad part about, and I'll tell you, it took me a lot of late hours to write that brochure. I was told you have to get something out because people are not listening or hearing why you're running. But sad to say, I do not know how to communicate some of these things. And I've tried in forums, and I don't care where the forums were held. It'll be Hila, Pamakua, Kohala, Kona, Ka'u. Whenever I talked about Act 97, whenever I talked about the state and the county attempt to eliminate EIS requirements, I never had one single solitary person asked me a question about that to explain it further. And I can conclude a lot of things from that, but I'll tell you what I did conclude. Most of them don't understand it or don't care. I hope they do care. I hope that not understanding it is the issue. I do want to point out a couple of things for you in regards to what I think is very important for this very impressive group, a big group to concentrate on. And I do hope this group gets bigger. Yes, the geothermal issue is very important, but even more important, as I stated in the brochure, was Act 55, Act 97, an attempt to eliminate geothermal from any EIS requirement. It was the process in which they passed those things. It was the process in which they attempted to pass that elimination of geothermal from EIS. I dare ask any of you here, how many of you knew that your government, county and state government, was working with people and went up to the State Department of Health to ask for an exemption of EAS requirement? How many of you knew? One man knows, two. And that's what I'm talking about. Now let's go Act 97. On that first exemption, do you know how I got the information on it? I was a happily retired grandpa pulling weeds. I got a call from a person from Kauai, and I'll just leave his name out because I didn't ask for permission. I got a call from this person in Kauai who was involved. He said, "Harry, do you know what's going on?" I said, "Heck, no, I haven't kept up. I hate to say it, but I haven't kept up." And then he told me about that. They had already passed the committee level and was going to go to the whole commission. And he said, "It's guaranteed to go pass." I said, "Do you know what that means to Hawaii people if it passes?" It means that they can do exploratory drilling anywhere on the land use districts on the island of Hawaii without a permit. I thought, no, that's not possible. And so you eat, and you eat. And I asked my wife for a few $100s to go to Honolulu to testify. And luckily, they voted it down, which surprised me, In regard to Act 97, this is the more important issue with me. I need for you to use your group to look into Act 97. Every forum I went to, because the time and the place is not to explain that, because you don't have the time. I asked the group to please look into the wording of Act 97 and see what it takes, what it does rather. And I think, as I told the governor, because he gave me the courage of calling me because he heard I wasn't too happy, and this was before I said I would run. I said of my disappointment in our government, of my sadness in our government, and even a disgust of our government in regards to what they're doing to our people and our land. I need you to read Act 97 because it eliminated Act 96, which was passed in the year 1983. And we had different people then, obviously. I did not like some parts of it in regards to the declaration of subzones, but I liked most of it. Because in it, it required consideration of you, the people. It required consideration of impact to the environment. And it required participation, education, involvement with the people that is going on fire. I want you to read 97, which took its place, because it eliminated all aspects of the past law. And in brief, what it stated was, geothermal exploratory drilling basically is allowed any place in the state except conservation lands, which is still the authority of the state, without any permit. And if you read 97, I think I'm boring the baby, but anyway. Act 97, geothermal development, is a permitted use in ag or rural districts without county land use permit or public hearing. It is a matter of right now because it is law. Act means it is law. And you know that geothermal is a major industrial facility. And this is why I told the governor and the lieutenant governor, how can you do this to the island's people? And this is why of all the things you're discussing today, this is something you have got to focus on. You know, I have not a disagreement of any kind of hostility, obviously, because the emphasis, and I'm glad of that because you saw me, I stated it in writing, my concern on that long time ago. But it was not alone. All of these things is highly collaborated to achieve a goal. You should know that. Act 97 took away so many of your rights. And their responsibility to communicate with you on what will happen to your land and your lifestyle. When I chose those words of affecting your lifestyle, it's not just words. It is because of the sincere, deepest feeling I can tell you of the preciousness of the lifestyle here. And I don't want it to be tempered with unless the people agree to it. All of this has been said, and I heard it out of their voices of people who I thought cared more. And this was, when I asked them why, they said, Harry, you know we've got to stop fossil fuel dependency. Who argues with that? But at whose expense and at what expense? And you know we have to do things to expedite, because these laws are there and they are things that will slow down the process of geothermal, but at whose expense? So I'm asking this group here, 55, I'm very confident at this point, I want 97 repealed. I don't want, right now, Mr. Rutherman, right now there are people in the legislature who are drafting amendments. Don't get pulled by the amendments that make you happy. Take a look at 96 and all the things that are showed on the process. They took that away and replaced it with 97. Don't be caught on the amendments that will fix everything. It will not. Have somebody, I know you're all, as Bob says. The reason that you don't know is very common sense. This is not your job. You don't get paid for it, for one. Number two, most of you are busy working a job and a half, and two, just to survive. And this takes a lot of time. And I know that. But this is a little different. You have to spend some time on it. I want to conclude and read something that I wrote to the Department of Health Commission on the environmental management as far as please don't vote to eliminate EIS, EAS. I ask you to take the time to review what the people of the area were exposed to, and perhaps one may begin to understand the distrust of what is said in regards to geothermal. It is my hope that you may begin to feel why there is so much fear when they hear unusual sounds coming from a geothermal plant, and when they are awakened at night with the smell of H2S. Please note at this time, there are no avenues for immediate follow-up of their concerns by government who is responsible for their safety. And that you have to follow up also. I disagree with some of the things in the health study because we have a government agency that is funded to do that, and that is your Department of Health. The pressure should be on them to do their job. When you review what did occur, and I meant every word of this, I believe you will be in admiration for the patience displayed by many despite the length of time and events they were subjected to. I know of no other families in the state that would have tolerated as much despite the impact on their families and environment. The adoption of the proposed exemptions before you today will clearly add to the distrust of government regulators and the perception that we are not listening. I hope that some of the information presented will be instrumental in beginning the task of establishing a trust relationship with members of the community affected by past geothermal activities as well as other concerned communities. To grant exemptions to Chapter 343 along with the passing of Act 97 counters almost every professional recommendation on the drilling and location of exploratory wells for geothermal development. I contend that we cannot have a policy of geothermal development that reflects that the priority of the safety of the people and the environment has a lower priority than expediency. The communities of this state rely on government to ensure that the support used in development of geothermal will be done with the safety of the people and the environment as the highest priority. In conclusion, I will say this. For those who know me, you know that I'm asking you to get more involved, but I'm asking you to, as I told Bob and Patricia, others out there, including Albertini, I don't like violence. I don't like confrontation of certain kind. I hate disrespect in regards to people, regardless of their position. So I ask of you to do it in a way that will gain respect of others, because you will need the support of others. I have considered, and I've always said it for as long as I can remember, that war is the greatest failure of mankind. And I believe that with everything I go through. And I'm not talking about war between countries, just war between people. I thank you for your participation in doing this, for all of you that taking the time to be here. I have a friend that I consider one of the wisest people that I talk to. And he's an international consultant, and I just talk to him to guide me, make sure that I stay on track, because we always seem to sway. And taught me from a long time ago to always remember that government should be the extension of the people. And I think that's where we've gone wrong. For the campaign is over, and I had believe it or not, a great time on people relationship. And I truly do want to thank you. I truly want to thank you for all the love you gave me. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. And I want to tell you, Puna Pono, I heard him loud and clear, and we've been working on on Act 97. Sorry. You know, Puna Pono is going to be working on Act 97. I talked to Russell Ruderman a little while ago, Harry, and he said, come see him. He's excited about working with you and with us. So, you know, obviously we're going to have to, if anybody here has experience at the legislature, we're going to be needing that. We're going to be moving this to the state level for sure. So, also, I still do want to say on 292 that, you know, it's a health and safety issue. You know, nobody can be kept up 24 hours a day for months and months. And we need to make sure the county council understands that it, you know, if you can't sleep, if your kids can't sleep, you can't work, you can't go to school, And so this isn't about saving PGV money or any of those things. This is about health and safety of the community, and that is what our county council is supposed to do. Number one is protect the health and safety of this community. And if we can't sleep at night, they have to recognize that issue, and they cannot ignore that, and we have to make sure they understand that. So there's a lot of issues going on with geothermal. We have permitting, rulemaking. December 6th, we're going to be in front of the Planning Commission for rulemaking. But something that's just came up is low frequency noise. And it's a new thing for Puna Pono, but we have somebody here tonight that understands it, and he's going to come and explain that to you guys. And it's kind of a new thing. So Sid Singer.
Hello, everyone. I'm a medical anthropologist. Many of you know me since we've been living here about 20 years. And what I do is I'm also the director of the Institute for the Study of Culturogenic Disease. And what culturogenic diseases is diseases caused by the culture. And there's a common, this whole issue we're dealing with here is a culture-caused disease. What's happening is there's a common theme to these types of diseases. There are problems that are created by industry. All sorts of industries create all sorts of problems. When you have very huge, powerful industries, they work with the government to try to limit negative impacts on the industries. And there's usually a lack of research on these impacts. The reason is, the more research that's done, the easier it is to sue. And for liability reasons, these industries do not want to have a lot of research done on what they're doing to people. Well, when it comes to low-frequency noise, that is a product of lots of different industries, but drilling is known to cause these LFNs, low-frequency noise, and also compressors and air conditioners and other operations at geothermal. They all create LFNs. Now, let me explain what LFNs are. In the spectrum of sound, we hear a very short spectrum, and below that spectrum is low frequency that we cannot hear, but can be at the same intensity or even greater than the sounds we can hear. And the energy of that sound wave still affects our bodies. See, the noise, the sound that we hear is a reflection of our eardrums. But when you're dealing with being inside a field of vibrational energy, which is what we're talking about here, your body resonates, and even your cells resonate. And the most damage from this resonance is done in low frequency and infrasound, infrasound is at 20 hertz and lower. Low frequency is considered 500 hertz and lower. Our hearing starts to get really bad at those low frequencies. So people don't hear this and they're not aware of it. And one of the other things about low frequency noise is it travels farther than sounds than higher frequencies. You all experience this, for example, when you hear a boombox car going by, you hear the bass way before the car comes. And so what happens is the bass travels really far. So if people are hearing geothermal 1, 2, or 3 miles from the source, they could have low frequency noise vibrating them way beyond that. So this isn't just an issue of people living around geothermal plants, wherever they may be. This is an issue that can affect people 5, 10, or even more miles away. And you won't even realize it because you don't hear it. This is a form of very insidious noise pollution that eats away at your life and your health. And this has been documented. There's a group in Portugal that's done a lot of work on this for 30 years. In the back, I have a page on this information with a quote from this person that I'm going to read. I've been communicating with the author of one of the people in this team. And she's been having threats against her. You know, it's not just geothermal, it's also windmills. They create low frequency noise that can travel miles, and it affects wildlife too. In fact, in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of concern about low frequency noise because of jets, Concorde, and all that kind of thing. And there were departments created for noise abatement on the federal level, but these were defunded in the 80s. And because industry doesn't really want this to be something focused on. So there have been a lot of studies showing what LFNs do. And what I interpret this as is, and I want to say, don't panic, okay? Because we don't have the data to show whether or not LFNs of the magnitude that can harm people are being generated by PGV. The reason we don't have the data is because all of the sound measurements that are made today, most of them, and the Environmental Protection Agency does this, they're made using an A-weighted meter. And what that means is they bias the meter so that the sounds that it detects reflect human hearing. So that the idea is they want to know how noisy is this for people, but we're only going to look at the range of sound that people are sensitive to. That means they ignore very high frequencies and low frequencies. So when they take these measurements and there's low frequency in the environment or in your house or whatever, and they're using these sound meters that only are biased towards what you hear, you can be blasted with 100 decibels of low frequency noise and it won't register, okay? So they're underestimating all the low frequency noise, and people in the field are complaining about that. And for any of the politicians here, I think there should be legislation changing our rules on the state and county level to require that decibel readings are not made with an A-weighted meter, which the law states. It requires A-weighted. You can't use other types of linear measurements that consider these low frequency noises. But what does this frequency do to you? It essentially vibrates your cells and makes them move, and it causes the space between the cells to thicken. Imagine your body is being shaken, and your body wants to compensate by increasing the glue between the cells to hold your body together. And one of the first signs of vibroacoustic disease, which is diseases caused by this, one of the first signs include respiratory problems. So when we're dealing with hydrogen sulfide gas, and you have vibration damaging your lungs anyway, it could exacerbate the hydrogen sulfide. So levels that might be normal, might not bother a healthy person, may very well bother a person who's suffering from vibroacoustic disease. The other thing it does is it affects your heart. And one of the good things about this is we can do definitive tests on whether people have vibroacoustic disease, and they're not invasive. You can do an echocardiogram, where they take a picture of your heart and they look for thickening in the pericardium, which is the sac surrounding the heart. And what happens is people typically, and children get this, and vibration of fetuses in the uterus cause the fetus to develop these problems. So if there are 10-year-old kids that live near a place that has LFNs, and these children already have thickened tissue in their hearts, and it's like a definitive sign without inflammation. It's like the body doesn't have an inflammatory thing like it's dealing with a disease. It's just thickening. And what happens is when your body thickens like that over time, you get high blood pressure, you start getting other diseases, heart disease, you get lung disease, and mental and nervous disorders. In fact, rage reactions. And I'll tell you an interesting experiment for people who didn't think infrasound, which you can't hear. See, there's this false cultural assumption that the industry uses to try to ignore this. They say, if you can't hear it, it can't hurt you. That's extremely naive, and it's like saying if you can't see it, it can't hurt you. But we already know that there are wavelengths of light, like infrared and ultraviolet, that you can't see, but they affect you deeply, very deeply. And these LFNs affect you very deeply. So they did this study, this experiment, where they took a group of people and they had a concert, a classical music concert. And they had the same concert with another group of people, except underneath, subliminally basically, they played 20 hertz sound at a very loud frequency, a very loud amplitude. People couldn't hear it, but boy did they feel it. They were anxious, they felt agitated, they felt annoyed, and they didn't know why. So people also will suffer from these vibrations. It affects the brain. It causes just cognitive problems. People their brains don't function as well. Their memory goes. They have, besides rage reactions, they get depression, they get suicide. Now, so there's also another thing, is increased cancers. The immune system gets damaged by these LFNs also. It actually causes the DNA in the cells to cleave and cross over, and it increases mutations and cancers. Animals and people living near fracking drilling rigs on the mainland. I mean, this is an epidemic all over the country. When people live near these, the animals and the people living around these drilling rigs are getting sick. And it's being known, and there are lawsuits now developing on this. There are countries that are developing low-frequency noise regulations. But when I look at the literature on this, they're almost all outside of the United States. It's a lot of Europe and Russia, Poland, Portugal. These are the countries that care about this, and they're even, it was first recognized, by the way, as part of an industrial problem. Airline pilots and flight attendants get a lot of low-frequency noise in planes, and it's because of the wind actually vibrating the fuselage of the jet, and the faster it goes, the greater the low-frequency noise. And it's very high, and it causes these people to get strokes, and that's another problem, stroke. So they start breaking apart because of this LFN, and as they get older, the disease really sets in. It's very important that before this issue, the reason I think this is so important for everything we're doing here is that it's not only PGV. We're going to be exposed to LFNs from multiple geothermal drilling sites. And if you have multiple sites sending out low-frequency noise, people will be in nodes where sound interference patterns with sound could be even greater. And they will feel like, I feel a hum, or I feel, and they might not feel it, but they may feel it. And people, this is also very interesting, it's while it's occupationally associated with disc jockeys. And people who go to raves, be aware that LFN in those rooms is extremely high, and it affects people. It affects children. People in these cars with the boom boxes, it can affect children. I think they're probably, the more this gets researched, there should be regulations against that kind of thing. But living near these plants, you have no break. And that's one of the reasons Bill 292 was so good. It gave a break. The research shows that if you at least have a break from the noise and get away, then it reduces the effect of the vibroacoustic disease, which, by the way, sets in after a few years, and as time goes by, it gets even worse. By 10 years, it's really full-blown problems. So we have to measure, we have to get measurements of these LFNs, but the problem is, even if we get the measurements, there are no guidelines that say 60 decibel of low-frequency noise is safe or not safe. They haven't studied that. They don't want to study that. They don't want to get that detailed. But the researcher that's done, this team that's done the most research told me that when people are in low intensity, low frequency noise, so it's not that high decibel, and they live in it and sleep in it, it's worse than people who work in it during the day. Which means that PGV workers who leave the area at night may not have the same negative effects as a housewife or a husband that works at home, sleeps there, and is like most of the time in the neighborhood near PGV at a lower intensity of sound than being right in the plant. So these are very important concerns that really, I think, add to the whole, the health study concept. What should be studied? Should we just be looking at gas? I think that this issue adds to the gas issue because people can suffer from this without having to have any exposure to hydrogen sulfide. And if they do have exposure to that, it will probably be worse. And it affects children, it affects everybody, and it could affect people miles from any of these geothermal plants. See, essentially, I think from a bigger perspective, what's going on is all energy production has a cost to the environment and to health, even solar. we're really very happy to have solar panels, and I live on a completely off-the-grid solar system. But if you read about how solar panels are made and how toxic that is, the kind of chemicals that they use, that they dump into the environment and so forth, even solar is not clean. And when you get, we're used to outsourcing the dirty part of our energy. We're used to having wells drilled in the Middle East and other places brought to us so that we can, Bob, I see you sneaking up on me, you're distracting me. I might not be Harry Kim, but leave me alone for a minute. Where was I? Oh yeah, we outsource all of the bad stuff and just want to have the good stuff. And now we are feeling what it's like to be on the production side of energy. Now, it's not just us. I've been communicating with the wind farm people who are opposing that on Molokai and Lanai. There are some very, very good people there that have the same problem we're having. And wind energy generates these LFNs too. It's also called wind turbine syndrome, which is a lesser, not as serious as VAD with wind turbines. And people all over the world are complaining about these things. But there are noise mitigation firms that can come out, measure LFN, put up noise protection, and I am shocked, to be quite honest, that PGV hasn't, and it should be in like standard operating procedure, that every geothermal plant has state-of-the-art noise mitigation. I mean, it makes no sense. We should have the best energy and the highest tech. I mean, this is Hawaii. Our environment is extremely important, and our lifestyle is extremely important.
It costs money, sir.
I know. And that, well, it costs only tens of thousands of dollars to actually erect these big vinyl walls around these noisy plants that they even do in urban areas. And the drilling is tolerated there. Of course, we're much more sensitive to sound also because we live in a very quiet area where there's not as much noise. We're really sensitive. People who are in urban settings are used to noise. And living along highways generates LFNs. So anyway, Bob, I'll leave that up. Say something. Okay, so the bottom line is this. I think the smartest first step would be anybody who's right now living around PGV and feel they may have some health issues, especially children, should probably get, I mean, we have to find out how to do this, but if we got echocardiogram and show that this is VAD, then it shows that the LFNs are significant enough, and that's the issue. If we measure LFNs first, we still haven't proven that that's causing these problems. Because a lot of these problems are general problems that can be caused by other things too. But the way to show definitively that it's vibroacoustic disease is by these echocardiograms, which is really not a hard thing to do, and it's non-invasive. So I think there are methods of showing that there is actual impact, if there is. And I think we have to responsibly address that issue. LFNs need to start being measured and no longer ignored. We need further research into this and not put our heads in the sand and make believe that this problem, doesn't exist if we don't study it. Because we're like guinea pigs. We can do a prospective study, wait until they do the next drilling, the next well, take everybody's health histories and wait 10 years and see what we have. That's how science works. But we want to be proactive because we don't want to wait 10 years to see what it did to us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sid. I want to tell you, we're going to be working with Adler. I've already brought that up with him. So, I didn't mean to rush you off the stage, but we're not ignoring your issue. So that wraps up the speakers. Thank you again, Sid. So a couple of more things, and then we're going to open it up and have questions. If anybody has any questions, we'll try and answer your questions. But so let's see, sign making. We have a sign-up sheet back there on the table for sign making, and we have. I'll have to find the the other one, I can't remember what it was. Excuse me? There is a sign-up sheet in the back for house studies. Please, that's one of the things we're going to be presenting to Peter Adler, and that's a really important thing. So, okay, so if any of the speakers are still here and want to come back up, is Dominic still here? You want to come up? Anybody want to ask questions? Okay, so when we do the questions, you're going to have to take turns. If you ask a question, then let everybody else ask questions before you come back up and start asking more questions. Okay, Joyce.
Bob, this is a question for Dominic Gong.
He's right behind you.
Right behind you. Hey.
Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Dominic. Okay, here's the question. Please clear up this confusion, and please, everybody, kind of listen to this. You said that a new council member, do you mean any council member, any member that didn't have a vote in the first, second, and third hearing of Bill 292? Anybody, any council member can make this request in writing within 5 working days after the mayor gives his decision, and I know, as sure as I'm standing here, he's going to veto it.
Yeah, you're probably right. Although I don't have the official word. We did check with LRB, had them do the research on that, and yes, any council member, the new council member that comes in, will be able to make a request for the reconsideration. And the reason for that is by the time the veto message does come to the council, it's going to be a new council seated. So yes. So any council member would be able to request.
I got one. Is Gregor still here? We wanted to have Gregor come up if he's still here.
It's on.
Anybody else? Okay, Mike Kucini's got a question, and then I see we got one here and one over here. Go ahead.
Okay, Dominic, is with Bill 292, is PGB exempt because they have a grandfathered in?
That's a good question. What Corporation Council basically told us was that we could not retro any permit that PVG had already garnered the 2 previous permits, and PVG basically was allowed to have up to 60 megawatts of power out of that plant for that particular permit. Right now, I believe they're at 38. So basically, they still have 22 megawatts to go. So certainly, if they can develop an additional 22, that's for the previous permit. However, what we brought up at the last council meetings, as you all read in the paper, that Health was asking for a 50 megawatt RSP. So just do the math. Obviously, they would be able to do up to 22 megawatts, but what about the other 30-somewhat megawatts, see? So to me, that would now require a new permit. So it's obviously up to the legal people to try to, determine that. But that is correct that any entitlements that they received from the previous permit, they are entitled to that. And we're not disagreeing with that.
My question is for Sid.
Sid, are you around?
Are the low frequency noises associated with electric booster stations or with electric plants? If you live near one of the electric plants, they also generate low frequency noise. That has the same.
I'm not sure which kind of plants you're talking about, but the kind of things that would create low frequency noise would be like compressors, air conditioning, vents, drilling, I mean, those types of grinding industrial sounds. There are electromagnetic pollution caused by other energy sources that have other effects, but not necessarily low frequency. I haven't read low frequency noise associated with certain types of electrical. Probably, yeah, I think I read that they do, yeah. A lot of things cause cancer.
I have two questions. One of them is something that I sort of heard rumored through the Coconut Wireless, which is that one of the reasons why geothermal is developing here is actually to funnel energy to Oahu, and I'm wondering if that's indeed true. And my other question is sort of a larger question. It's clear that we do need to get away from fossil fuels, and it's clear that we are going to at some point need another source of energy. And so if it's not geothermal, then what is that energy source going to be? And it seems like there needs to be some kind of realistic plan that needs to be on the table, because that's not on the table right now.
I'll answer those questions. The first question is, a lot of legislation has been passed at the state on the cable. They have a PEIS for a cable. The governor has said that he thinks geothermal is fabulous, and he'd like to see up to 1,000 megawatts of geothermal. Anybody that says that that's not the case is misinformed. If you go to the legislature and you look at what bills are being passed, and you look at what the governor is saying, they definitely, this is not about 150 megawatt, more 50 megawatt power plant. As far as alternatives to geothermal, there's a lot of reasons to oppose geothermal for me. And, you know, I live there, health reasons, impacts on the community, no buffer zone, setbacks, noise, and economics. We pay 43 cents a kilowatt hour approximately for our power. PG&E gets between 14 and 18 cents a kilowatt hour, I believe, and it depends on what contract we have. So why do we pay 43 cents for our power? It's because of the centralized power grid. It's because of the grid. Helco only makes 3% or something like that, but they get a gross off the top. So the more they spend, the more they make. That's an outdated way to produce energy, and it creates a monopoly. You want all the power produced in one place, and you move it around in this grid so you can control that and make all the money. But it's costing us 3 or 4 times what it would cost to produce the power we would use it. And that's what's really nice about independent solar systems, which we have a lot of in Puna. I really like solar. I think there's a lot of amazing new technology. Solar technology is progressing so fast that you can hardly track it, because I do track it. And I have a website at punapono.com that has all the new technologies that I can find. And if anybody has any other new technologies, there's all different kinds of research, and the price is plummeting. You can buy solar panels in Hilo right now, American-made solar panels, for $1.17 a watt. When I bought my first panels in 1999, they were $10 a watt. 6 months ago, I bought some panels that were $1.50 a watt. So there's no other type of energy that is dropping in price. Geothermal is going to go up. Geothermal is going to go up because of the grid costs, even if they are able to bring it down to 8 to 11 cents, which is what they say. 8 to 11 cents is not that much less than 18 or 14 or whatever you're getting now. It's just, it's the cost of distributing the power, and then now they're going to have to create what they call a smart grid, where they're going to dump millions and millions, in the state it's billions of dollars, into smart grid technology. So there's no way your power, people on the grid, their price is going to go down. It's not going to happen. Even if geothermal were to be cheaper, the rates are going to still go up, and solar prices are going to still drop. But we don't get that money. You know, for us out here in the community, that we have done this. We grow our own food. We produce our own power. We are sustainable, a lot more so than anywhere else. We have a biodiesel plant in Keao, but there's no revolving fund. The main thing holding solar explosion back is that upfront cost for the system. It's not the long-term cost. So why does PG&E get $200 million in grants? Not PG&E, I'm sorry, Format. energy system. $200 million in grants, $350 million in TARP loans, $350 more million in partial loan guarantees, and Solandra and all these other large centralized power production companies, billions and billions of dollars, and there's no loan program for people in the community to put a solar system on their house and make a payment to that loan instead of to the, but you know why? It's going to put Delco out of business.
Hey, Bob, another person right here?
I hope that answers your question.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Hey,
Gene.
Aloha, everyone. It's so nice to see the family of neighbors and friends get together and stand up. So great that everybody took the time to come out here today. My question is something that Dominic is familiar with. I've asked him. I've asked Bob. I've asked Harry. I've asked everyone who's wearing a uniform. I've asked anyone who's taken an oath to the Constitution to tell the truth. I just want to see the people in my life that I depend on and that my son's life depends on get to the truth. And there are some elephants in the room, and I'm not seeing everyone. There are some elephants in the room that we are not addressing, and I don't have a silver bullet of how we address it. But I know I must, as you all must think about some of these elements. And I humbly bring to you something a lot of you already know. What are some of the elephants, please? The Federal Reserve. Hang on, I'll get to that now. The Federal Reserve is so corrupt. Well, let's get a little specific here. They have the ability to print trillions of dollars in secret since 1913. And they can give it to their friends and make special deals, and the people are not allowed to audit them. So when we talk about economics and we don't bring that up, I feel it's more time, Japanese would say it's a waste of time. Okay, what about the questions, the overwhelming evidence that our government is hijacked? The Federal Reserve is a perfect example. You know, Bob asked to look at all these big corporations and these government entities that have all of this money. Where do they get this money? It's all very well coordinated. The New World Order exists. It's just a matter of lifting the veil and bringing in United Nations troops to enforce whatever they want to do. So I don't know where...
Gregor, don't take off, man. I want you.
Yeah, see? Take off.
Well, Gene, you know, I heard that you're kind of giving a speech more than asking questions.
Okay, bottom line, brother. I'm just looking for somebody, anybody who wears a uniform, who took an oath to the Constitution, to address, and I didn't mention it, and I have to mention it now, because if you guys want whole world, you have to look at the truth and the reality that the Hawaiian Kingdom, the Hawaiian nation, which you are a part of, if you want it, we are free. We don't have to secede. There is no treaty of annexation. I don't have a silver bullet, but the path to our freedom, if we can handle the truth, is there. And I am disappointed that people like yourself that I love and respect, and Dominic, and Harry said, there's only so much I can do.
Well, I'm disappointed you come here and disrupt my meeting.
I'm not disrupting you.
You are.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you, okay? You want to call it that, that's fine.
That's how I see it. You don't have to talk. Why are you talking those tones? Well, talk like everybody else. There is no treaty of annexation. I support one. Okay. I said there is none that I know of.
Okay.
What has that got to do with what we're talking about?
Can I answer you?
If we can get on and move on after that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But what that has to do with it is every law that the county and the state and the federal government imposes upon the people, and it's not even a constitutional republic anymore. In 1871, they passed the District of Columbia. The United States government is a corporation.
All right, okay, please, that's what you need. You're disrupting my meeting. I'm building unity. I'm doing something.
Hey, that's why I stopped.
over in the courthouse. Let's restore some order here.
We're just going to run the meeting, and next time you call the meeting and see how many people come.
Hey, let's bring it back.
Wait a minute, Bob! You told me that you wanted to bring this issue up, but you were going to lose people. Well, I don't want to keep people if they're not going to have the intellectual integrity followed you. Come together. Bob, right? You even asked me. You asked me.
Sergeant at Arms? Do we have a Sergeant at Arms?
Are we putting out fires when there's an arson in the house?
He had more than 2 months already.
There's people in here who know what's going on.
Well, then call a meeting, Gene, and I'll come to your meeting. But this is our meeting, please.
And why won't you be there?
I'll come to you. How many meetings did I come to of yours? I
Okay,
can't.
well, I'll tell you what. I'm sorry. And God
Thank
bless
you.
all.
And I love you, brother. And I support you, but you're turning, you know, why there may be people that support you. When you act like this, you're turning off people.
It's not about me.
Well,
it's always about you.
I did allow him to speak. I allowed him to speak.
Let's get back to questions.
Let's
get back to the format. We have a format. Excuse me. We have a format here. Okay? So we're in question and answer. If you have a question, raise your hand. Oh, stop it. Come on.
You know what? If you can't work with us, who are you going to work with? I mean, seriously, you know me. You know me. You're going to come here.
Hey, we have a question. How about that? Time for the question.
My question is, how long have you been trying to do this within the system that does not work?
Until they start drilling. We're preparing for direct action. If anybody wants to prepare for direct action, that's what will happen. If they come down here and they don't listen to us, then that's when we march on their drill sites. And I mean, unless you have another idea.
Have they listened to? I haven't been around that long, but some of you have been fighting this for over 20 years. 20 years. How sick has kids gotten since then?
Well, okay, they haven't built any new plants in over 20 years.
That one's still going.
Well, but that's
still making
our
our kids, our family sick.
Right. So what's your solution? What's your solution? That's what do you think I'm doing? What are we doing? Well, then sign up and get on board. Because unless you got somebody else doing a better job, we're we got. Gregor, come on up here, save me.
Introducing our beautiful women. Chloe, come to a person.
Aloha! I'm in for a lot of... Well, dude, just light up the mood. I got a joke for you. Okay, what's green and has 4 wheels? Grass. I lied about the 4 wheels. Well, I just wanted to say, first, thank you so much for getting me where I am today. Because without your support, I wouldn't be here right now. Because of your vote. And you said in the words, and letting people know about my candidacy, I'm standing here. And the first thing I really wanted to let you guys know is that we have a whole office. And the lease has expired. It's going by month. And I'm advocating to keep that office. And I need your help to keep that office here in Pahoa, to make sure that it's convenient for the people of Pahoa, that they don't have to go, excuse me, man, please, respect. So I just wanted to say this is great that you guys are organizing. I've seen Bob from the beginning, and he's a great leader. He's done this, and thank you, Bob. Thank you all the support that he has gotten. Because it's not only Bob, it's also Tom, it's also Susan, it's also a group of individuals want to keep this sustainable. And this is what you're doing. You're giving the people a stronger voice. And I'm conflicted in this whole geothermal issue. I really, because I hear both sides of the issue. And for me, I want to keep the discussion open. Because there's people who strongly support it. And there's people who are also totally against it. And where do I stand? I need to make the right decision for the good of the people. And right now, how I feel about it is location, location, location. I feel it's in the wrong location. And we do need to keep discussing the geothermal issue. And I just want to let you know, my office will always be open for you. Please, come visit me. Thank you.
Sure, questions for Gregor? You want to give him a mic, too?
Come on, Gregor, you have to make a stand. Here's the question. Okay, cool. We can see both sides.
Who am I talking to? Who am I talking to?
Would you please get a microphone so we can all hear you? We can't hear you. In the meantime, Greg, what's your question?
Oh, I like your name.
Okay, anyway, yeah, I'd like to, I would just to ask Gregor right now to write that letter for reconsideration.
Like I said when I was standing up there, I will open up the discussion, and I will make sure that we're talking about this issue.
Does that mean you're going to write the letter?
You're going to write the letter for reconsideration?
I'm not even sworn in yet, guys. Come on.
Okay, I have one comment. Okay, real quick.
Let me say, Mike, he will make sure that if somebody doesn't sign it, he will. Okay?
All right.
Thank you, Steve. And I didn't even have to run for it. All right, where's the guy from upstairs?
One other statement, real quick. Just, what do we have, there's a lot pointed out, there are so many technologies. We also have to get affordable fuel for our cars. And if you click on to Biofuels Brazil, please shut that kid up. And you will find out, right, that Brazil has had 45% of its total fuel cost in the fuel consumption provided by biofuels for the last 30 years. The technology is out there. We could be growing gasoline for our cars right here as we did. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Gregor, here's a specific question. Understandable? You got to listen to both sides. We respect that. We appreciate it. What about, as Harry says, the actual process of what's going on? Because obviously the bills are being written, home rule is being lost, and our process is being taken away, and our voice is being taken away. So the specific question is, are you, as a council member here, going to stand up for the people and make sure they get the process that is due to them, and not by bypassing the law? Thanks.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're about ready to wrap it up. Okay, we got a couple more. We got right back here. Galen.
Hello, first a quick comment. I honor the conflict that took place here tonight. Out of strong conflict came from strong progress. So I appreciate anyone's honesty, no matter how difficult it is to endure. My question, it was to the state, I don't know if he's still here, but you might be able to answer, Bob. He mentioned that solar also has toxins in it. And, you know, I know that's one of the reasons we're in Afghanistan, very mineral-rich country, very rich in lithium, which they use in the solar panels. And I wondered if you knew if there was any of the new technologies, you mentioned some, that were non-toxic.
Well,
so we wouldn't have to steal from other countries and bomb them.
There are some new technologies in the pipeline right now.
Hey, Bob.
One is carbon-based.
Hey, Bob, I got one comment over here, Bob.
Hi, I wanted to just take a second because of that whole thing with Gene. My name is Puna Pono. I'm actually involved with the local Hawaiian government. I do want to say that Gene Hamashiro does not speak for the Kingdom of Hawaii. The other thing is that we make it a point to present ourselves with ha'aha, which is humility and aloha. You guys know what aloha is. We appreciate his passion, but not necessarily his needs. I just wanted to say that, granted, it's an elephant in the room, but I will side with the crowd and the immediate relevance on the particular issue that we're getting with. I don't want Gene to make the rest of us sovereign people look like a bunch of buffoons. I love the man, but a lot of us within like the activist community and the Hawaiian sovereign people don't appreciate the way he goes about it.
Thank you. I did try to answer the question. There's the one technology I just read about. It's not silicon-based, it's carbon-based, and it's supposed to be a lot better. We also have a problem with the batteries. So the thing is, with solar panels dropping so fast, we're going to be able to eliminate the batteries. We'll be able to find other ways to store the power other than conventional batteries. You can just put in more and more panels. Like PGV wants to start producing hydrogen. The same thing can be done with solar. Pump storage, where you have extra. I know there's Paul here who's in the room. He even has a solar pump that just runs during the day. When the sun's up, no batteries, pumps water up to the top of the property, and then the water runs at night. So there's no batteries involved. So it can be done. The thing is, you know, again, it's a problem because it goes against the monopolies. And I think that's the real problem. It's not that the technology is not there. It's just that we're not funded. And I'm not sure how to get around that. But in order to do it, we're going to have to organize together as a community. And we can't fight with each other over different issues. We're going to have to find common ground. We're not going to agree we're not all going to agree on everything, no way. But we got common issues, and if we can't work together, we're not going to get anywhere. We've got to do this thing together. In the proper forum. He doesn't need to come here and act like that. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. Gene? He doesn't unite people. I don't see him uniting people.
No.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to an end because thank you all very much for coming. Aloha.
Thank you. And if you guys are helping stack chairs, would you please put blue tape chairs right here? I have to be running to my school.